Thank you for coming to the YouTube channel, and thank you for supporting dismantlecapitalismglobally.com. I hope that you will visit the website, read the articles. I've been doing some writing. I also would like for you to visit the other website that I manage. It's called changingali.com. That is my personal web page. My books are on there if you ever feel the need to support my books. I am a self-publishing author and writer, so definitely need the support. Thank you. Thank you for coming on and listening into the videos. It is becoming more and more important for us to have that conversation about capitalism. I mean, we just need to have it, considering everything that it does. I mean, with this war, the inflation that has followed, job insecurity, the poverty, mass incarceration, you name it, we got to talk about capitalism. But we also have to talk about its handles, its byproducts, because it does have that. Capitalism has racism attached to it. It has patriarchy attached to it. It has racism attached to it. So it's a lot to assess when you're thinking of wanting to analyze it. And I mean, it's so confusing when you have white people, for example, denying white supremacy / Eurocentrism because it's in the history books, right? A lot of things are in that history book. You have to read the history book for one, and you have to apply what you have read and learned to the world, to the social unrest examples that we're seeing. They have roots. They have causes. They did not just happen yesterday or the day before or last year. This is historical stuff that is coming up to the surface. So you have to do the homework. You have to be the informed person, right? Because, you can't just rely on your opinions and beliefs. I've said this over and over again. Like, you've got too many complex issues in this world whereas your opinion literally does not matter. It may matter for somebody at some point in history, but at this point, we have to look at history. We have to look at evidence so we can subsequently solve the problems of the world. So I don't want to get too philosophical. Trust me, I will do that if you give me the time to do so. I want to talk about, again, white supremacy / Eurocentrism and capitalism. Because they are connected. They come from a culture whose domination around the world influenced those ideas. Capitalism, the venture capitalism that we have now came from Europe. It was brought over by Europeans in their quest to take land, take anything that they could get their hands on by dominating other cultures. And here in the United States, this is the perfect example because we know the Native Americans, we know the enslavement of African Americans. We know all of that to be tied to white supremacy, Eurocentrism, whichever word you want to use is fine. Those are hard facts. Those are not facts or ideas which are coming from the top of my mind. They are historical, and in history you find example. We definitely can understand why white people would want to deny white supremacy because it's a violent history. It's not the grown-up thing to do, of course, but we know that, especially as Black and brown people, we know the experience under them. We know them better than they know themselves, honestly, because so many of them are denying the hard evidence, but we keep pushing to talk about the hard evidence because we are the victims of white supremacy. Again, and we are going to keep pushing through because that's what needs to be done because white supremacy has a system. We are still under that system. We are still, having to face all these laws and capitalism, and none of these are helping Black and brown people. I mean, we're just going to jail for petty crap, Black males are just being incarcerated for like the pettiest stuff. being detached from their families, spending 30, 40 years. I mean, one political activist just died a couple of days ago. He was in jail for over 40 years. So I mean, there's no justice under white supremacy. It does not operate with the ideology that we're going to give justice to black and brown people. White supremacy operates because it wants its own survival. It is after its own survival, and to secure that survival, it has to dominate and destroy other people. That is white supremacy, and we are still under this system today. It has not gone away. We have all these white presidents for a reason. That is your example. That is your evidence. But in terms of the implementation of it, it does not always have to do with the law and labor work. It has also influenced our psyches, because we are going to school to learn through the lens of white supremacy. Our education system is in place, whereas black and brown people are learning about American history. Black people are not learning about Africa's history in depthness, so that they can push their own culture forward in a socio-economic definition. So it's big. It is not just it's systemic in different angles: education, religion, socioeconomics. And if the system has been able to strategically implement itself that way, then you have a solid system in place, a system that is tied to one group's life and their definition of livelihood, and the rest of us are just being tagged along. The rest of us are being forced to help this group to thrive. And that is what's happening. That's why you have to, again, look at these issues that we're seeing as not just issues of yesterday. They are issues of many years, and they are attached to a system. They are attached to some social system. So having brought different cultures under its belt, under its umbrella, I should say, white supremacy has brought African Americans under its umbrella, Native Americans under its umbrella. And that's why you see the social relationship with them. So you see the relationship between black and white people as strained. You see the relationship between Native Americans and white people as strained. Because, again, also in our psyche, we know the history. We know that that Europeans are our colonizers. Regardless of how the different words that they use, like democracy, justice, none of those words mean anything when you have a group that is using violence to destroy other people. We know those words to just be euphemisms, right? So as like I said, black and brown people, we can differentiate. We can differentiate very well because we have learned the history within the walls of institutions, but as well as through personal experiences. You have to question whose lens you are working with, especially in the world that you live in today. When you find yourself, asking that question, you will be able to see what the black and brown person wants to tell white people. We are working your system. We are helping your culture to thrive, and we are being left out as a result. You don't have any reparations for black people. Native Americans are not going to get the land back, or they have to keep fighting to get it back. But you have the denial from the government, not even wanting to take on the topics, right, of those two groups, black and brown people. They instead just ignore that conversation, that dialogue, to continue to form NATO and to form associations, go into black and brown countries and destroy the infrastructure. So that denial is not just individualistic; it is also systemic, because they have privilege, because white people have privileges in terms of systems. They have the upper hand to continue to make laws, to just put you in jail for silly stuff. They continue to have the highest voting numbers, and they ultimately place those white presidents in our face, like each time, because they are like the highest population. They have the highest population rate, especially in this country. They also have the opportunity to thrive under capitalism because they have the upper hand in those systems. Then of course they can enrich themselves, right? You have a network now. You are in different areas, banking, education. You can build that network. And you can grow from a capitalistic definition. So they definitely have a lot of advantages. They've definitely secured those because of that legacy. It's understandable that when you look at the stats on economics between black and white people and brown people, and you see how they have always have had wealth. That wealth came from somewhere. It did not just drop from the skies and into their hands. It came from somewhere. It was generated throughout many generations, because wealth, as we know, comes from different portfolios, right? It does not just come from one angle. It has many angles so that you can create this wealth. In terms of education, we've had a lot of black educators and psychologists continuously talk about how black children are not learning in the way that they should, because they are under a system that does not define them. They are in classrooms that are not teaching them who they are through their life experiences, and that is a disservice to the black child who has to learn another culture's ways of doing things versus the black child's experience. In education, you have to, the whole purpose of education, like Dr. Amos Wilson repeatedly explained, the whole purpose of education is that you uplift your people. You bring them out of poverty. That's the purpose of education. It is not just, I have a degree. No, there's a purpose to this. There's a reason why you have that. So if black children are not being taught their history and subsequently their position under white supremacy, then of course they will be lost. They will continue to have to feed the European culture versus their own. And we see that like in Africa, the leaders are continuously creating deals with European countries and not even looking to their own people as support, their own neighbors who are just as African as they are, and brothers and sisters, at least from where we're looking at it, okay? But instead, these African leaders tend to give more support to Asians who come in the continent, and white people and Europeans who come there. And you wonder why the continent is still having problems, many civil problems. Well, it's the actions, it's the capitalist action that is causing these unrest, because you have a power grab happening. People are wanting power, different tribes wanting power, and that creates whole lot more problems than they need. So it's deep, it's very deep. How we're educated, how we are, how we buy, and where does that money go, also is part of white supremacy. It governs a lot of what we do. Not just our physical bodies with police brutality, just killing black males as leisurely as, going to the store and getting a Coke or a Pepsi. It's a leisure mentality to a disastrous action. Killing somebody is disastrous. You should do everything in your power to not do it. But we see them doing it so freely, right? Because the law allows it. The law in many ways gives them authority to do so. And who has made those laws? Europeans have made those laws. They have made them to satisfy their own agendas. Laws, what laws? A bunch of rules, rules that people just sit around coming up with. But they have meant havoc in the lives of black and brown people, because we have more black and brown people in jail. And, after they leave jail, their voting rights are removed, can't even get a job. I mean, it's all systemic. Everything that we're doing in this world is systemic. And that's why I wanted you to look at this book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, because it will show you the history. And of course, you can connect that to the diaspora in Western civilization, because it did end up, white supremacy did end up in Western civilization. It is doing the same thing now as it was back then. Nothing has changed. The people have changed. You have different generations of white people in control, but the concept the agenda remains the same. Besides socioeconomic and education, we also have another area that white supremacy has influence, and I wanted to bring that up, this topic of religion. As white supremacy was going around, penetrating to different continents and countries to create their agenda, religion, the way we worship and the way we view God, also was impacted. And, you still have black people with images of a white Jesus. You still have black people reading the Bible, even though the Bible is still colonizing people. The Bible is not an association. Well, I don't want to say association. The Bible is not black people's history per se, but the Bible has a lot of cultural appropriation of black people's history in there. It's just being told through different people's lens. So the Bible, the concepts of the Bible and the stories of the Bible traveled. It ended up in Rome, Greece, and Europe, and we now have the European version. And all of that traveling, things change, the content change. And now you have black and brown people who are Christians, and they can't see that the reason they're Christians is because their colonial oppressor forced it upon them. You're not Christian because God wants you to be a Christian. No, you're a Christian because your oppressor gave you a white God to worship. And that's what is still happening. Black people are still, continuing to acknowledge a white Jesus. Like, this is a psychological problem. This is a big problem, that you see your God as white, even though your skin is black. Big problem. And again, that is the influence of white supremacy. It is it influences a whole lot, the way we project, the way we see each other. And in also religion, I don't know, I don't think I have mentioned this book, Christianity Before Christ, but it is on my personal website. I have referenced it a lot. So this is John G. Jackson, a black educator who wrote about the plagiarism of Christianity and how the white Jesus is really a facade. The white Jesus is not real. It is a mistake. In the same way, the entire New Testament is really just a copy of the New Testament. Somebody wrote concepts of the Old Testament into the New Testament, change a few things around, and all of a sudden you've got a whole lot of people, billions, believing that some white Jesus walked around this earth. That's a psycho problem. That is a big problem, and it needs analysis. And it doesn't stop there. Sadly, Christianity also came from Judaism, We the Black Jews by Dr. Yosef Jochanan. And that too, it goes way back to Judeo. And what is that all about? What is that Old Testament history all about? Where did it come from? And it's in that history that you'll find that if you ever want to research, you'll find the greatest lies being put forth. You'll find that the Old Testament focuses a lot on storytelling. It's a narrative, but the narrative has a history. It has evidence, and that history is going to take you not where this Old Testament is saying you should be. It is going to take you to the origin of people's history, of African people's history. Like I said, there's a lot of cultural appropriation, and white supremacy definitely has been quote unquote, effective in bringing forth other people's culture into their definition so that they can be more validated. But the problem is that black and brown people, we are getting the bad side of things because we don't know the lesson. You're missing the lesson of all of this. You're missing the lesson if you believe that Jesus was an actual person and Jesus was white. That you're missing the lesson, because Paul took the concept of ancient Kemet to write the story of Jesus. So, it gets really, really deep. I also have a podcast called Formerly Christian. And on that podcast, I kind of referenced the different research that brought me away from Christianity. And, I encourage you to listen on. I mean, it's hard for me to go deep into this stuff on this channel, at least. So, follow me on my website, changingally.com. Like I said, I go deep into that because I had to learn the truth as a black brown person. I had to figure this out to know how deep white supremacy has impacted our lives. I couldn't get that out. Impacted our lives in such a bad way that we don't even know ourselves as black and brown people. Like, we have to work to put those pieces together. We have to struggle to put all of that together so that we are walking in definition of our own blackness and brownness, not another group's conclusions about life. So white supremacy is it's systemic. I want to say that again. Stop thinking that it's black and brown people attacking white people. No, we have dynamics here. We have enough information in this century to talk about each other, to have conversations, because it is impacting our work life, our personal lives, our education. That's why dialogue must take place. I hope that you will look into those things. You will do your own research. I hope that you will look at history, not rely on just your belief and what you're told to believe. That's a big problem. People telling you what to believe. That's so much of a big uncomfortable scenario, but it is happening. It is definitely happening. Stay tuned to my other videos. I encourage you to continue to be strong, to be an informed person, not just someone who walks around reciting things that other people told them. Do research. Thank you so much.